Obviously, we've heard from other organisations like yourselves, and some of them are Section 38, some of them are Section 39, but the biggest issue is funding, and it's an annual funding. So, I mean, it should be moved, I presume you agree, to a multi-annual kind of, well, that you can plan ahead. The funding you get isn't actually sufficient to pay for everything that you provide. But, I mean, the HSE has to be aware of that. Why do they not increase funding to match need year on year?
I think it goes back to what I stated in terms of, there needs to be an agreed funding model, that we all know what that model is, how it operates, the transparency, around it, and that model needs to be flexible to, the inevitable crises or urgent cases that arise. So that's first and foremost, really.
Yeah, I've heard from other organisations and they've said they're almost afraid to be honest about their budget, because if they overspend, there's almost a threat on them. Well, you didn't manage your budget, so therefore you might be curtailed. I mean, is there something like that happening, or? I mean, it sounds ridiculous. If somebody hasn't enough money to meet the needs of their service users, then they need more.
Yes, I would agree.
Once there's proper governance in place, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I suppose it's as a Section 38, there are a voluntary board of St Michael's House, a board of directors. They're completely voluntary, and under the Companies Act, under various other obligations, if we were to overspend, not only would we have to explain ourselves, and we have overspent, and we do overspend to the HSE, but also the issue of a going concern arises and comes up on an annual basis. So the expectation, I think, for voluntary boards, not only in St Michael's House but throughout the country, given the pressures and given the sustainability, and when I talk about sustainability, it's not just organisations, it's families. How do we continue with this? But at the helm of the organisation is a voluntary board. So we are answerable to them as well.
Okay. And I know the change in need is one of the biggest pressures at the moment, and there's no accountability for that, and there's no kind of flexibility around that. That's been raised with me by Alison Harnett and others as well. Just you say you have, I think it's 6 special schools and 1 satellite school. May I ask what a satellite school is? Because I just don't know what that is.
It's not a school in its own right with its own board of management. It's linked to one school, and it has a different location. So it's a satellite of one particular school.
Okay, right. Just in a discussion earlier today where we were marking a year of the report from the Joint Committee on Autism, some of the parents would have raised the issue about the fact that there's no grading or no accountability on what students with autism or even in special class or special schools actually learn at school. I mean, and therefore there's a very low level of expectation. I mean, you talk here sometimes about, students leave a special school and they go straight to a service where they might be in that service for the rest of their lives. I mean, do we need to think better about our young people here? Do we need to look at more options for them? I mean, going straight from a special school where, as I said, there's no tests, there's no, the Drumcondra test, there's nothing to actually say what the students have learned. And we've lots of examples of autistic students who are non-verbal, but who are extremely intelligent. But the issue is the communication piece. And there's often an assumption made that they're not intelligent. So we need to be able to address that, and that's obviously within the communication and maybe uses of assistive technology or other mechanisms. But do you think we need to raise our expectations for our young people in our special schools and look at other options rather than going straight to a service? And I'm not condemning services whatsoever. I know the brilliant work that they do.
I think we need to raise our expectations across the board. And if we're here talking about rights and we're talking about choice, we're talking about individuals. So it would be based on individual assessment and funded appropriately according to not just the need or not just the current framework, but the will and preference you know, that's certainly something that we're all advocating to move towards. Yeah.
Because the career guidance is not provided, but I think, is there a plan to provide career guidance in
to be clear that we're predominantly the Section 38. There's independent board of management in each of the schools. It's a patronage, so I wouldn't be an expert, I have to say, on the education aspect of the delivery in schools. We'd be more involved in the health aspect of it.
And just a quick question on the residential before I finish. You talked about houses, so are they all group houses, community houses, or are there any individualised accommodation provided?
We have a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a mixture of both. We have predominantly community houses.
So what are you talking about in each house for?
It varies and depends on the size of the house, but depends on other factors as well, such as compatibility, for example, and the needs of the changing needs of people. So we have a number of 3-bed, 4-bed, and 5-bed houses, and we have a number of 6-bed houses as well.
Okay, and then some individual.
We have independent living units also, and we have people. Service users who are also renting directly from a local authority as well.
Okay.
So we've
and are they all dispersed in the community? Are they
yes.
different houses?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're lucky enough that we're not too affected by congregated settings in that regard. Yeah.
You don't have any congregated settings?
We do. We do have a congregated setting currently in North Dublin. Yes, but we have plans to try and address that in the near future. Yeah.
And the housing situation is obviously a huge factor in that, isn't it?
It's so difficult. I think it's the biggest challenge is trying to find. If you can imagine a community house that would be maybe accommodating 5 people, you know, it needs to be 3,000 square foot. It needs to have a significant, external space, and trying to locate, and ideally a bungalow. Yeah. Trying to find such a thing in an urban area. Is very challenging, and then trying to secure the funding for it if we are lucky enough to identify an opportunity.
Okay.